G'day and welcome to another edition of Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business. Coach James Short here, aka Shorty, and welcome to another edition. I am super grateful because we've been having people subscribe to the show, which has resulted in some great news. So these guys, because of the show, these guys from Magic Mind reached out to me a little while ago, and they sent me a bunch of free shots to try. Now, Magic Mind is what I call a mental productivity shot. It's a shot in a container. And as you all know, I love the little mindset hacks or performance hacks, and these guys have bottled it. And so they've got all your nutrients, or your phyto minerals and vitamins, plus some cool mushrooms in there to give you clarity, focus, and increase your productivity. So check them out, Magic Mind. So head over to magicmind.com/James Short, and you get 20% off your one-time purchase with the code James Short 20. So that's James Short, all one word, 20. And you'll get a good discount there. So on with the show, and I am excited with this next guest. This gentleman is a good friend, and he is a mover and shake within the commercial real estate industry. He's a mover and shaker also on the dance floor, and I'm sure we're going to unpack that shortly. But Alberto de Grava is a professional and highly qualified licensed commercial buyer's agent from property buyer with over 10 years plus experience in sales. Alberto is a determined negotiator with a wealth of sales knowledge and accumulated in a variety of sales roles and industry over the years, including account management, hospitality, retail, direct sales, sales and leasing, commercial properties since 2015. Alberto is actually hugely experienced in commercial sales and leasing, being an investor himself and having purchased a variety of properties on behalf of his clients as well. He's an innate ability to empathize with clients and maximize their clients' property mandate with perfectly planned and executed strategies. Known by his clients and peers to have an excellent negotiation and communication skills whilst being approachable and professional. He has earned the reputation of a proactive, diplomatic, honest, and straightforward buyer's agent. Let's get him on the show. It's an honor and a privilege to have him today. Alberto, how are you, my friend?
Good, James. Thank you for having me. It's a
Mate,
pleasure to be here.
I'm honored. I'm honored because we're going to have some fun with this show today. So, mate, let's unwrap. Talk me through, how did you get into the industry? What was those first thoughts or those first inclinations of like, yeah, I'm going to try real estate? Take me back then.
Okay. So we go back probably, 2014. I was working in retail hospitality, and people around me were saying, "Oh, you should work in real estate or finance." And obviously, I thought I'd love to do that. But because I migrated from Italy, I had a bit, some issues with the visa situation. That got delayed a bit, but then I thought, let's do the right thing. I'll get the certificate of registration, and then start to have some chats around. So it was actually thanks to a friend of mine that was working for an agency in Surrey Hills. Excuse my voice. They had been looking for an agent for 12 months, and they couldn't find anyone suitable. They were not happy. And back at the time, this was a commercial agency with just a small residential branch, and they were actually hiring for the resi space. So I went in, did my interview, and they liked me, surprisingly, because I was a student. I didn't have a car back then. I could only work part-time, but these guys, for some reason, liked me. So I thought, I might have a divine intervention here supporting me. And I went for a second round of interview, and they said, we'd love to hire you. We highly respect your studies. So finish those. You can work part-time and then transition into full-time. So that's how I started. But I was in resi and I didn't really like it. So 6 months later, I thought either get out of the industry or change my path. And luckily, that same friend that got me the interview, he left the company. So I basically replaced him in his commercial role. And from day one, it felt like very natural to me.
Yeah, that's so good. That's amazing. And so, like, if we were to fast forward to the now, talk me through, because we've had resi buyers agents on the show before, but talk me through what's the difference. Obviously, commercial property, but what are you noticing as the main difference between a commercial buyers agent? And what's the ins and outs around that as a real estate professional?
Yeah, so obviously commercial, we have different asset types,
Mhm.
right? So resi, it's a house or an apartment where you live in, whereas commercial, it's considered to be any asset that hosts and accommodates a business that operates out of the property. So it could be an industrial warehouse, it could be an office space, it could be a retail shop, a showroom, it could be more specialized assets like petrol station, childcare, NDIS, whatever that is. So it is complicated just starting from the asset type, and then intrinsic in that, we talk about zoning. So depending on the zoning, a business, it's either allowed or not allowed to operate in a certain area. And then, obviously we go and talk about the different uses within zonings. And there's just so many complications that make commercial property a way more sophisticated type of asset, and also the type of profile of people that we deal with.
I want to I was going to ask you a question around that. And so that profile person that you deal with, it would be quite different from a profile person that deals a lot in residential property. What is that typical? Obviously, there's lots of variation, but what would that typical type of profile be when dealing with someone in the commercial space?
So when I was in my previous role, doing sales and leasing, traditionally you would deal with tenants that could be, a startup business looking for a shop or a restaurant, or maybe just a media agency looking to branch out, all the way up to big corporations that operate out of thousands of square meters of space, either, in the CBD office space or a warehouse somewhere in South Sydney. So you deal with business people, that are involved in the business. They're really busy, business busy. And usually they're very successful, and they also are driven by numbers. There's no emotions. It's all about the numbers, um, property fitting the bill, a certain amount of rent if you want to lease, or budget to buy, and all the different metrics that come into place as well.
And how have you noticed the difference between, I guess, when you first started in commercial and to now? What's been the biggest changes and shifts that you've noticed within the commercial space?
Well, when I started, I was dealing more with leasing, because that's doing leasing in commercial. It's not as doing leasing in residential, because when
Completely
you're
different.
trying to lease a property, commercial property, we talk about longer leases to start with, 3 or 5 year leases. And then you've got all these terms and conditions within the lease, the annual increase and the security bond, that are way more complicated, and option periods as well, that in residential they're not present. So when I was doing when I was dealing with tenants, actually, can you ask again the question?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess the difference from when you first started within the
Yes.
industry and now, particularly in that commercial space, what have you noticed as the biggest difference and changes within the industry?
Okay. So, I mean, within the industry itself, not much, but obviously the type of clientele that I deal with, it's different.
Yeah.
When I was dealing with tenants looking for a space, or small business owners looking for a property, whereas now we deal mainly with investors that are very high profile investors, high net worth individuals, or small funds, or family offices that come to us with a certain budget, or big corporations that are looking for spaces. So it has not changed in a way, but it's changed the people that I deal with.
Yeah, gotcha. And where are you finding the commercial market at the moment? Like, is it booming? Is it just it's moving forward, or is it on a go slow? Because we had a good chat this morning around what's on your plate, and it's like, oh
Yeah,
my goodness, dude, that's hectic. But
yeah.
like, is that traditionally, or is that just because you're doing an amazing job?
Look, the market right now, I would say, as we like to say in the industry, it's patchy.
Yep.
So patchy because it really depends on the location, whether we are capital city, CBD, fringe, suburbia, or regional. That changes. But it also depends on the asset type, mainly on that. So if you're in the industrial space, it's still really solid and strong across most markets. Retail, not doing so well, depending on what it is. Office, not doing greatly, especially if you're in a city. But then if you're in a suburban area where there's limited office supply, it's probably doing well. So it's very patchy.
And I guess looking at that, and this is where the big difference between commercial and resi is within the commercial banner, you've outlined four different subcomponents of the commercial, and so that's where that patchiness comes from. It's like, yeah, cool. If you're in the burbs with limited amount of stock, then yeah, it's sought after. Or if it's retail space within a high volume area, then may not so. So hence the
Yeah.
hence the patchiness. Yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah, and
Where do you
hence, there's always been myths about commercial is risky because you've got vacant places for a long time. It really depends where and what it is. Because if we go in industrial, there's nothing. There's, a 1% vacancy, which is absolutely minimal. But I'm sure if you go along Oxford Street or Crown Street in Sydney, you'll see some empty shops that have been empty for a long time. And yeah, those investors have not done well.
Yeah, I understand. Where do you see, I guess, the commercial space? I mean, obviously we don't have a crystal ball, but where do you see it over the next, say, 12 to 24 months? Do you see it still patchy, or do you see it starting to shift?
I will see it still patchy. I think it's a little bit emotional in a sense that we depends on the interest rate talk. So, in the last few months, everyone has been expecting interest rates drop, and a lot of investors have been pretty aggressive in a way. But then a few days ago, we had the CPI, which was 0.1% higher than expected, and all of a sudden, that's changing the buyer's confidence, and therefore the market as well. But from my point of view, I think we have bottomed out. We are on the way back up, and right now, it is the best time to buy for us.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. So obviously, as a doing what you do as a commercial buyer's agent, it's a lot different, and there's a lot more moving parts to the process, and a lot of DD due diligence being done, timing. You're dealing with usually multiple people in relations to an organization and so forth. And I want to find out though, behind the scenes for you personally, in relations to mindset, how do you maintain that, I guess, motivational mindset? Because talking to a lot of people, to maintain that positive mindset for a longer period of time, it's a
Mm.
juggle. But what I've noticed with you in particular is that you've maintained that positive mindset. What are some of the things? So what are some of the things that you do either daily or weekly to shift that mind in that positive trajectory, so you know the deal's going to come, but it's just a matter of how long? How do you stay ahead of it? How do you work on your mindset?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I guess we can unpack a little bit more about habits later, but from, the very beginning, from my nature, I always take a very long-term approach with anything, knowing that things take their own time. And knowing that commercial transactions are slower than resi. And, as we discussed, sometimes it is challenging because I'd love to do a deal within 7 days, but it doesn't happen that often. It may take 2 or 3 months. And I guess knowing exactly where my client is at point A and then where we need to be at point Z, knowing where every step of the way along the journey allows me to keep always balanced. But sometimes there's conversations, very challenging and crucial conversations with agents or with buyers that in the past, I guess I would have jumped out of or reacted, whereas I've now learned to listen, really listen to what the other person is saying, and then take my time to respond, and say, okay, I'm taking this in, relax, breathe, and then maybe the same day or a couple of days later, I will call back the person with ideas or solutions.
Mm.
And a very important part of that is not taking anything personally. Because the moment I take something personally, then it all goes out of control.
Yeah. I love that. And there's so many pieces of gold nugget in that answer. One in particular is knowing what the steps are. Because I think when we know what the steps are, even though they might go 1 forward, 2 back, 3 forward, and so forth, at least we know what the outcome is, and we can measure how we're tracking along
Yeah.
those steps. Where if we don't know what those steps are, the emotion kicks in, as you've just mentioned, and then we respond quickly, we get frustrated, we get overwhelmed, the anxiousness kicks in, all those things because we're not clearly understand what the steps are required to be done for that deal to be taken place. The other aspect that I love what you've just mentioned is around creating space and having those courageous and crucial conversations, not reacting straight off the whatever
Mm.
that person has said on the phone or via email. It's like creating space, but then being willing to have those conversations either a day or a couple of days later. So you're coming to that solution with a win-win outcome rather than just like, right, I'm just going to do a quick reaction because I haven't thought about it through. It's highly emotive and it doesn't serve anyone. So some beautiful gold nuggets around that. You mentioned around habits and routine. Talk to me about that. What is it for you that is habits and routines so important to you?
I guess, I started in the personal development journey, probably go back 12, 13 years ago, when I moved to Australia and, with the Tony Robbins Hour of Power, that's how things started.
Love it.
So, and I make it a daily practice, which is non-negotiable for me to have all my routines done for me, have my me time before anything else, because, I really care about that being the best version of yourself concept. And if I can be that, then I can be it for other people. So some of my daily routines that I do every day, as soon as I wake up, okay, have a glass of water and all of that, but it's stretching, which I've introduced recently because, I'm going on with age, so I have to do that. But then go straight into breath work techniques that I've learned from a variety of different professionals.
Yep.
Then I do meditation, and it doesn't need to be much. It really depends on the time that someone wants to dedicate it to. And then I pray. I've got my own way of praying, and I do it daily, and combined with some grateful, thankful routines, which completely change my approach and mindset straight away.
Mhm.
And then I read, I journal a bit. Then I go out for my physical routines, which is, a nice 45 minutes walk, listening to audios and podcasts, and then a quick 15 minutes workout. So those 2.5 hours, as soon as I wake up, they are absolutely fundamental for me. And it may seem a lot, but then once you create some habits and structure around it, then they'll give you a lot of freedom as well.
Love it. I love it. And what do you notice the biggest shifts and changes from doing that, in particular that morning routine, that have you noticed that has helped you get through the day?
Okay, I think one is subliminal in a way that when I know that I do, well, maybe I don't when I don't know, but I do my routine day in and day out, subconsciously, I'm very disciplined and determined and, persistent and tenacious. So I am saying that to myself without being aware of it. That's one thing. But then obviously everything else that I do during the routines is having a positive impact in my mindset and putting a smile on my face, really being grateful for what I already have. And the more you do that, the more comes to you.
So true. So true. And that's the thing, right? Because a lot of the time we feel that we need to, I guess you've reversed engineer it. You want more of something, so you're doing that thing in relations to gratitude, right? So therefore, you're being in that present moment. You're doing the gratitude things. You're looking after you first, which therefore you can then look after others second, and it's
Yes.
just a beautiful flow on effect. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And
Fantastic.
recently I reintroduced the I am affirmations that I hadn't done for some time. And oh my God, they are so powerful.
Yeah. What have you noticed? Okay, let's unpack that for a sec. What have you noticed the shift or the change around that? What's been the biggest impact that those I am statements have had on you?
Well, obviously, there's different ways of doing that. And, I say things that I truly believe that I am, but others that I would love to be. But in a way, you are telling yourself that you are those things that you want to be. And then not immediately, but after some time, I started noticing that something was happening that was different to the past. And I thought, well, if this is the only thing that I changed, then it must be thanks to the affirmations that I've been saying. So something has been manifesting on the outside world as well
Love
as
that.
my inside world.
Ah, so good. So good. And that's the thing, right? It's that getting the proof from your outside
Yeah.
world that the inside world is changing.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, cool. So on the show, we have what's called a 60-second quick quiz to find out more about our guest, to unpack the hood. Are you willing to play?
All right. Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. All right, here we go. Favorite movie?
Wolf of Wall Street.
I love it. Favorite food?
Italian, of
Of
course.
course. Favorite holiday destination?
Italy, come on. Europe. We use the continent.
We've talked about your morning routine. Do you have an evening routine?
Evening routine, yes. Reading, journaling, and meditating. But obviously, there's also a bit of winding down and, watching some TV series just to get my mind distracted.
Nice. Fantastic. Do you have a most embarrassing moment?
Um, no.
Okay.
Now?
If you could choose five inspirational people to have dinner with, they could be dead or alive, who would they be?
Okay. The first one has to be Jim Rohn.
Hmm.
Jim Rohn, because it was the person that I read the first book that got me started on the personal development journey.
Fantastic.
Second one is going to be his student, Tony Robbins.
Hmm.
And another person I would add, some people know him, not for good reasons, but he's now dead. But Silvio Berlusconi, the former Italian prime minister, for what he has achieved throughout his life in a variety of areas, it's been truly amazingly inspiring. and Arnold Schwarzenegger as well for the same reason.
Yeah, so good. One more.
One more, Brian Tracy.
Fantastic. Oh, what a table that would be.
Yeah.
If you were Prime Minister for the day, what's one thing that you would change?
Okay. Got a couple of things. One is very unusual. I would, because I like things to be tidy and in order, I would change the calendar from what we know it to be the Gregorian calendar to a lunar year calendar. So that you have 13 months or 28 days, which make total sense. That's how it's supposed to be, as opposed to
Interesting.
having all this messed up calendar that we have. Um, Another thing I would do is, which is one of my big long-term goals, is incentivizing recycling more. So with a variety of initiatives, starting from education, but also with some more practical methods. And the last thing I would do is linking the politicians' pay to the performance of the country.
Yes. Accountability. I love that.
That's it.
So good. So good. All right, cool. Do you have a best piece of advice?
Do the right thing,
I love that.
think long term,
Yep. Yep. Love that.
and for anyone work related or business related, I guess spend the time that you need to find something that you are really passionate about and enjoy doing, whatever it is. Because it's been what I do now for the past 3 years. It feels like I'm doing something that I love, that it's fun, and helping people is absolutely phenomenal. It then doesn't feel like work. I'm actually looking forward to Monday to Friday.
So good.
So yeah.
So good. So what's coming up for you? What's some of your plans and goals that you're working on over the next, say, 12, 24 months?
I guess we want to keep on growing. I mean, the business, it's been growing exponentially already. The industry is booming, and we want to keep on servicing as many clients as possible. Like I said before, we love dealing with self-managed super funds right now. There's some family offices and small funds that we are attracting, and those are really high profile people together with high net worth individuals, but also keep on helping those big companies that are looking for spaces, and they don't have the time, the knowledge to find the right property. So we would love to keep on helping those. And I guess something else that it's naturally happening is growing the team so that we can keep on offering that 5-star service, to maintain a high reputation in the industry, so that people talk well about us and keep on referring business. Um, yeah, so those are some of the things on the
Fantastic.
horizon for me.
Fantastic. And so
Oh,
how can,
I'd
yeah,
love
another
to
one.
win an award because I've been
Ooh.
I've been finalist in 2022 and 2023 as the only commercial buyer's agent in a generic buyer's agency uh, award.
Yep.
So we don't have a commercial category, and I'd love that to be created and one day win the award.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Definitely on the horizon, that's for sure. So how can the audience reach out, follow you, get more information? Where should we send them?
Email alberto@propertybuyer.com.au, or they can go on the website www.propertybuyer.com.au, or follow me on Instagram as well. Commercial buyers agent, it's me.
Fantastic.
And yeah, we'd love to have a chat to anyone that needs help.
Wonderful. Alberto, thank you so much for your your expertise, your knowledge, your energy, and just your love of life. Really appreciate you and everything you're doing.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. Bye for now.